Okay, Internet. Stop the scroll. Pause your day. Because what you are about to hear is the story that literally no one saw coming. The headline that has sent shockwaves through reality TV, through fundamentalist circles, and through the world of online true crime commentary. The foundations of America's most famously large family have not just cracked, they have seemingly shattered. After years of scandal, trials, and a very, very public fall from grace, Anna Duggar and Josh Duggar have finally separated. I know. You're thinking, wait, didn't he get convicted? Isn't he in prison? How is this news? But trust me, this is not just a legal footnote. This is a seismic shift. This is the moment the carefully constructed wall of Duggar loyalty, of standing by your man, of weathering the storm no matter what, finally showed a fault line. This is a story about faith, family, forgiveness, and the ultimate breaking point. This is a story about Anna. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we dive deep into the unresolved, the controversial, and the human stories behind the headlines. Today, we're going on a journey. A journey through the courtship, the fairy tale, the first scandal, the second scandal, the raid, the trial, the verdict, and now, the separation. We are going to examine every piece of this puzzle. So, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because this story is still being written, and you are not going to want to miss a single update. To understand the magnitude of this moment, Anna Duggar leaving Josh Duggar, we have to rewind. We have to go back to the beginning. Not just the beginning of their relationship, but the beginning of the public Duggar phenomenon. 19 kids and counting. The show presented the Duggars as the epitome of wholesome, conservative, Christian family values. The girls in modest dresses, the courtship rituals, the focus on family and faith above all else. Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar were not just parents, they were architects of a lifestyle. And Josh, as the eldest son, was the crown prince. The trailblazer. The first to court, the first to marry. And then enters Anna Duggar. Born Anna Renee Keller in 1988, she was raised in a similar, if slightly less stringent, conservative Christian family in Florida. She knew the rules. She believed in the principles. When Josh Duggar started showing interest, it was, in the world she inhabited, a fairy tale. This was the eldest son of America's most famous Christian family. In 2008, they had a courtship that was documented for television. It was chaperoned, it was pure, it was the model for their followers. They married in September 2008, in a wedding featured on TLC. Anna was the picture of a joyful, submissive helpmeet. She had entered the Duggar inner circle. For a few years, the fairy tale seemed intact. They started having children. Madison, Michael, Marcus, Meredith, the family grew. Josh had a job lobbying for a conservative Christian group in Washington, D.C. They seemed like the successful, attractive face of the Duggar brand. But then, the first quake. In 2015, the world learned what a small circle of people already knew. Years prior, Josh Duggar had confessed to his parents that, as a teenager, he had inappropriately touched several of his younger sisters while they slept. This was not a minor scandal. This was a bombshell that challenged the very core of the Duggar family's public image. The police report was devastating. The show 19 Kids and Counting was pulled from the air and eventually cancelled. And where was Anna? In front of the cameras, standing next to Josh. In a joint interview, she famously said, "I can say when Josh confessed this to me, it was at that moment that I could say my love for him grew." She stayed. She publicly forgave. She echoed the family line of a sinful teenager who had sought forgiveness and redemption. This was the first major test, and Anna, guided by her faith and the powerful Duggar family structure, stood by her husband. Josh resigned from his job, and they moved back to Arkansas, seemingly to live a quieter life under the family's wing. But the quiet didn't last. Just months later, in the summer of 2015, another scandal erupted. It was revealed that Josh had created accounts on the Ashley Madison website, a service designed specifically for facilitating extramarital affairs. Furthermore, he was accused of subscribing to adult entertainment platforms. For a family that preached purity, modesty, and fidelity, this was hypocrisy of the highest order. Josh checked himself into a long-term faith-based rehab facility. And again, Anna stayed. She visited him there. She posted on the family blog about God's grace and her commitment to her marriage. This period is crucial to understanding Anna's position. She was now the mother of several young children, financially and socially enmeshed with the Duggar family. Her entire identity, her belief system, her community, all dictated that marriage was a covenant before God, broken only by very few circumstances. Divorce was not an option. Separation was a last, dire resort. Her public stance was one of steadfast loyalty. Many on the outside criticized her, called her a victim, pleaded with her to leave. But from the inside, leaving would have meant abandoning not just her husband, but potentially her faith, her family's approval, and her entire support system. It was an impossibly high wall to climb. So, for years, Anna lived in this state of limbo. Josh returned from rehab. They had more children. They lived in a warehouse on the Duggar property. They were largely out of the public eye, a shadow of their former televised selves. The world mostly moved on. But the Duggar story was not done. Then came the day that changed everything. November 2019. Homeland Security investigations raided Josh Duggar's now-defunct car dealership. The news was cryptic, alarming. Something about a federal investigation. Rumors swirled. Then, in April 2021, the arrest. Josh Duggar was taken into federal custody. The charge? Receipt and possession of child sexual abuse material. The details from the indictment were, and remain, horrifying. We are talking about some of the worst material imaginable, described in court documents as depicting the sexual abuse of children, including toddlers. This was no longer a story of past teenage mistakes or marital infidelity. This was a federal crime of the most grievous nature. The trial in late 2021 was a media circus. The evidence was digital, forensic, and overwhelming. Anna was present in the courtroom almost every day. Her face was often a mask, unreadable. The family stood behind Josh, proclaiming his innocence. But in December 2021, the jury returned a unanimous verdict, guilty on both counts. In May 2022, Josh Duggar was sentenced to 151 months, over 12.5 years, in federal prison. He is currently incarcerated at FCI Seacoville in Texas, with a projected release date not until 2032 at the earliest. He is a registered sex offender. And throughout it all, the arrest, the trial, the sentencing, Anna Duggar remained. She was photographed bringing their children to visit him in jail before the trial. She issued a statement after the verdict, saying she was devastated but pointedly not condemning him. Her loyalty seemed, to the outside world, unbreakable. A fortress of faith in the face of monstrous evidence. This is why the news of their separation is so monumental. For over a decade, through every conceivable scandal, Anna was the constant. The symbol of unwavering commitment. So, what changed? What finally made the wall crack? Reports began to surface in mid-2024. First in tabloids, then picked up by more mainstream outlets. Sources close to the family were saying that Anna and Josh were separated. Not legally divorced, that would likely be a bridge too far for their religious beliefs, but living apart, with Anna making a life for herself and her 7 children separately from the Duggar compound. The rumors suggested a gradual, painful process that began after Josh was sent to prison. Let's break down the possible reasons. The first, and most obvious, is the sheer practical and emotional toll. Anna is now a single mother to 7 children, ranging from teenagers to toddlers. Managing that alone, even with some help from the extended Duggar family, is an unimaginable burden. Visits to a federal prison in Texas from Arkansas are not simple. The reality of a 12-year sentence is a daily, grinding fact. Second, there is the court-mandated reality. As part of his sentence and his status as a sex offender, Josh will have severe restrictions upon his release. He may not be able to live in a home with minors, including his own children, without court approval and monitoring. This creates an impossible future for a traditional family reunion. Anna may have been advised, even by family or legal counsel, that maintaining a marital union under these conditions is not tenable for the safety and stability of her children. Third, there is the court of public opinion, but more importantly, the court of their own community. While the Duggar family publicly supported Josh during the trial, the conviction and the nature of the crimes may have caused a rift even within their insulated world. Some family friends, churches, or community members may have exerted pressure or withdrawn support, leaving Anna more isolated within the very structure that once upheld her. Fourth, and this is the most speculative but perhaps the most powerful, a personal awakening. For years, Anna's identity was defined by being Josh's wife. It was her role, her calling. But with Josh physically gone for over a decade, that role is empty. She has had to become the sole parent, the decision-maker, the head of the household. In that space, a new identity may have begun to form. An identity separate from Josh's wife. The woman who survived the unimaginable. The mother who has to protect her children above all else. The constant barrage of court facts, the details of his crimes she can no longer ignore, these may have slowly eroded the foundation of blind loyalty, replacing it with a stark, protective maternal instinct. But here's where the story gets even more complicated, and where our documentary-style deep dive must continue. Because nothing with the Duggars is ever simple or fully transparent. Is this a formal, legal separation? Have legal documents been filed? The family has not made an official announcement. Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar have remained silent on the matter. This silence itself is deafening. In the past, they were quick to issue statements defending their son and affirming family unity. Their silence now speaks volumes. Where is Anna living? Is she still in Arkansas? Is she receiving financial support from the Duggar family, or is she trying to establish independence? Remember, Anna has never had a career outside the home. She has no independent income. Her ability to leave is intrinsically tied to her access to resources, which have likely always been controlled by Jim Bob Duggar. What about the children? How are they processing this? The older ones, Maddie and Michael, are teenagers now. They have access to the internet. They know their father's name and crimes are a global story. The psychological impact on them is a story in itself, a story we are only seeing the first chapter of. And what about Josh? How is he reacting from prison? Has he accepted this? Is he fighting it? Has there been a formal directive from his religious leaders on how to proceed? In their belief system, separation may be tolerated in extreme cases, but remarriage while both are alive would often be considered adultery. This brings us to the million-dollar question: what does separation even mean in the Duggarverse? Does it mean Anna is simply living separately but still considers herself bound to him for life, waiting for his release? Or does it represent a true, internal breaking of that covenant, a first step towards a life permanently apart? The difference is everything. To understand that, we need to look at the broader landscape of the Duggar family itself. The empire has fractured. Several of the Duggar daughters, Jill, Ginger, and even Joanna, have publicly distanced themselves from their parents' strict oversight. They've written books, done interviews, and discussed the pain and control they experienced. They've embraced a more moderate form of Christianity. Jill Duggar and her husband Derek Dillard have been openly critical of Jim Bob, even suing him for unpaid reality TV wages. The unified front is gone. Anna watched this. She saw her sisters-in-law break away and survive. They built lives, they found voices, they garnered public support. They demonstrated that there is a path outside the compound walls. This cannot be underestimated as an influence. Furthermore, the Josh Duggar trial was unlike any previous scandal. It was federal. It was graphic. It was adjudicated by a jury of his peers, not by church elders. The verdict was a secular, legal, and final pronouncement of guilt that no amount of spiritual rebuke or forgiveness could erase. It created a concrete, immovable reality that perhaps even Anna's profound faith could not rationalize away. We also have to consider the relentless pressure from the online community. While much of it was toxic, a consistent thread for years has been concern for Anna and her children. Advocates for survivors of abuse have tirelessly pointed out the dynamics at play. This message, repeated for years, may have finally found a crack in the armor, especially as Anna's primary daily concern became the well-being of her children, not the protection of her husband's reputation. So, where do we stand today? As of this recording, the situation appears to be this: Anna Duggar is building a life for herself and her 7 children that does not include waiting for Josh Duggar. She is believed to be living separately from the main Duggar compound. She appears at some family events, but her focus seems to be on her immediate family unit. It is a quiet, profound, and historic shift. But, and this is a huge but, this story is nowhere near over. Because Josh Duggar is still in prison. He is appealing his conviction. His legal team has filed motions, argued technicalities, and vowed to fight to the end. The appeal process could take years. What happens if, by some extremely remote chance, his conviction is overturned? What pressure would then be brought to bear on Anna? What happens as his release date eventually approaches in 2032? Will Anna be expected to reunite with a man she has lived apart from for over a decade, a registered sex offender who cannot legally be around his own children without supervision? The logistical and moral nightmare of that future is staggering. What about Anna's own journey? Will she tell her story? Jill Duggar wrote a book. Jinger Duggar wrote a book. Will Anna, who has been at the absolute epicenter of the worst of it, ever break her silence? If she does, it would be the most explosive Duggar narrative of all. And the children. 7 children growing up in the shadow of this. As they become adults, how will they relate to their father? To their grandfather, Jim Bob? To their mother, who stayed for so long? The generational impact of this saga is immeasurable and will play out for decades. This, right here, is why you need to stay with us on this channel. We are committed to following this story with respect, with depth, and with a commitment to the facts. We will be here for every development, every legal filing in Josh's appeal, every sighting of Anna, every statement from the family, every step these children take into adulthood. This isn't just celebrity gossip. This is a real-time case study in crisis, faith, survival, and the redefinition of a life. We want to hear from you. What do you think was the final straw for Anna? Do you believe this separation is permanent? What do you hope for her children's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This is a conversation we need to have. And if you want to truly understand the complex world Anna came from, go back and watch our deep dive on the IBLP, the Institute in Basic Life Principles, the fundamentalist organization that shaped the Duggar family's beliefs. We've linked it on the screen and in the description. It's essential viewing to understand the pressures Anna has lived under her entire life. So, what's next for Anna Duggar? Only time will tell. But for the first time in her adult life, the next chapter is hers to write. Not Josh's. Not Jim Bob's. Hers. And that may be the most powerful twist in this entire, heartbreaking saga. Don't forget to show your support for deep dive documentaries like this one. Hit that thumbs up button if you want more content like this. Share this video with someone who follows the story. And most importantly, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Because when the next development in the Duggar family saga breaks, and it will, you'll hear it here first, with the context and clarity you deserve. Until next time, stay curious. And remember, the biggest stories are often the ones still being written.